All right, guys, welcome to our Driving for Dollars series. It is 6 a.m. and it is time to prepare for our drive later today. I wanted to start this thing off by just showing you what my process looks like, and then we're going to start pounding the pavement. Preparation in any form of industry business, especially when you're driving for dollars, you don't want to get in your car and just start burning gas.
Actually, it looks like we're going to need some gas.
Oh, well, how much gas you think is in there right now?
Well, it's on E.
We want to be super efficient. You don't want to drive into a neighborhood and realize, oh, this is an industrial park, right? This is not a residential neighborhood at all. So the point is, you probably already have a strategy or some idea of what you're trying to accomplish. You got to make sure that the Driving for Dollars effort you're about to put in seamlessly fits in with that strategy. I'm gonna go through two different situations here. I do happen to flip homes and I do implement buy and hold strategies, but not every town is suited for both, especially for those of you who are buy and hold specialists that are looking for multifamilies only. So first off, I'm gonna jump into a flip strategy. We're gonna use my hometown, and I'm gonna show you guys a little bit about, or show you a little bit of what I look for. Now, I know Florham Park, just by doing a simple Google search, has a median home value of somewhere in the 700 to 800K range. But the point is, you always wanna understand the sweet spot of your market, especially as a flipper. And by sweet spot, I simply mean where are the most sales taking place. I refer to it as the hot potato range. What I am doing here is I'm simply jumping onto Zillow. I'm looking at the sold data points for the last 12 months. Now, as I'm looking at my data set here, we'll see for the last 12 months of solds, I have a cluster of homes that are in that 700K range versus when I look in this particular area, I'm seeing $1 million range. And what I'm trying to understand here based off of, again, what my budget is, what my strategy is, what neighborhoods within this town make the most sense for me. You'll start to see some patterns and some clusters of what's, the different price points that we're looking for. And this will start to help you zero in on the neighborhoods that you want to drive. I should also mention, driving for dollars is most efficient when you're in neighborhoods that actually have rows of homes and you're not waiting long to get to the next home. So point is, it's tough in rural areas. You just simply don't have the numbers available to tag properties. All right, guys. I know I talk a lot about median data points and data in general, and maybe that can be a little bit boring.
Bueller.
But it is important. We do need to understand these things, and I want to make sure that you guys, understand how to do these quick checks as we're going through these understandings of the different data that we're trying to hit. One of the ways that you can go about looking at the neighborhood that you've already targeted to make sure it's within that range is simply just zooming in to a point on Zillow where it starts to show you all of the Zestimates in the area. Now, of course, the sold data points typically hold more weight and significance to us. The more data points you have, the more certain you can be on what that average or median home value is for the neighborhood. You need to zoom in just enough and it'll show you all of these estimates, right? And then you can just start doing your normal navigating around Zillow to make sure the neighborhood that you're about to drive around fits that budget or whatever that strategy is that you're trying to implement. So for those of us that are trying to focus within a certain price range or a certain type of neighborhood, utilizing the Zillow map function can be quite beneficial. Now, coupling this with Google Maps and doing a street view will help you understand and actually trying to get face-to-face with the property. Typically, Google Street View is actually pretty recent, so you should be getting a pretty present-day shot of what's going on there. I'm sure we're all familiar with Google Street View, but just to show you, this gives you a good idea, right? If you wanted to hit this neighborhood, now you have a good idea of, all right, this is what this neighborhood is going to look like. Most neighborhoods have a very, similar feel. You're not going to see a bungalow next to a 4,000 square foot home. That's just not normally how it goes. And it'll help you understand, do I have these add a level opportunities Is there construction going on the block? Am I pioneering the block? So using these two tools that are publicly available as you're putting your prep work in before you hit the road. Other things to consider as you're planning your driving for dollars route is landmarks within town or transportation hubs, the center of town. Some people like to stay within a certain radius of different locations. A lot of times that is a train station. Florham Park, which is what we're looking at right now, happens to not have a transportation or train hub. However, we are very close to another town, Madison, which does. So if you wanted to stay within that radius, my recommendation to you guys is simply plug that into your Waze or Maps or your GPS of choice. As you're doing your driving for dollars, if you want to stay within a half mile, simply make sure you're staying within a half mile as you're driving around. And as we are looking at that radius around, whatever your area of focus is, you want to start paying attention on maps. And this doesn't, need to be a very exhaustive effort, but you want to make sure you have a good, sort of labyrinth or maze of streets that you can, bob and weave. You want to be able to, hit as many homes as possible. Similar concept to making sure that you're not hitting a rural area. You want to make sure that you're in a very densely packed neighborhood and that your drive can be as efficient as possible. So whenever you're looking at a neighborhood that has a nice little grid, that's exactly what you're going to be looking for. So in this case, if I was in Florham Park, we see a bunch of different streets that we can hit. Certainly areas can get, this is a suburban area. We can go to more urban areas, especially for those of you who are looking for multifamilies, whether to flip or buy and hold. I'm going to show you one of my other areas that my team farms. This is Bloomfield, New Jersey. You'll notice that, as we zoom into Bloomfield, there's, more streets, more availability for us to really look at as many houses as possible as we're driving around. We got our train stations. Some people will stay close to major highways. In this case, we have the Garden State Parkway. This is all for commuting purposes. In our situation, it's a lot of people who are commuting to New York City. So these are all things that you want to pay attention to as you're setting up your driving for dollars roadmap. All right, guys, listen, I know I talk about these train stations a lot. Maybe it sounds a little bit funny to you. Maybe you laugh about it. Fairly obvious to you, it's public transportation, right? But what are we actually doing here? We're transporting a bunch of people to some of our major, cities that are near us because we want to get to our jobs, right? A lot of times what you'll notice with the data around these train stations is higher median value homes. You might notice higher rents. You are going to have renters that are going to be able to pay you bigger bucks. Pay attention to these types of landmarks. They're important. It's something that needs to be focused on if you're trying to put together a good buy and hold strategy. Before you go out, if it's not something you've already considered or have downloaded, you might want to consider some form of technology. In my case, I like to use Deal Machine. It allows you to, tag properties as you're driving, add them to your list, create certain filters if you're someone that would like to highlight. Deal Machine, I think there's a couple other apps out there will allow you to do that for a relatively cheap cost. Also, finding a navigator or just a partner to drive with you. Driving for dollars, you're still in a car. You still have to man that vehicle unless you're, one of those awesome people who have a self-driving Tesla or otherwise. It's nice to be able to focus, the task at hand, right? Which is not necessarily driving. It's finding homes as you're driving. So you can imagine, your head's on a swivel. It becomes a lot easier when you have a partner next to you that's either manning the app, on the phone, helping you point out houses, whatever it might be. It just makes life not just more efficient, but safer. So, driving is still generally a pretty dangerous thing that us humans do. So find a partner, get the right technology, do the right, prep work before you hit the field. And from there, we'll show you guys in some of these upcoming videos exactly how we go about the reach out and cultivating that data that we've collected. And once we get to the end of our prep work here, we understand what strategy we are trying to implement into our area. We've looked into the data to figure out what our sweet spots are. And now it's time for us to actually hit the road here. Things that I want you guys to think about as we're, jumping in the car and getting our technology revved up to start this session is, what exactly am I going to be looking for now that I'm driving? We're going to get into this as we're on the road, but at a high level, we're looking for signs of distress, potential value adds, whether that's add a level, subdivision, etc. We'll point these things out and highlight, but it's important that this preparation work was done, and now we're feeling confident as we hit the road that we know exactly where we're going, what we're trying to achieve, and what types of conversions we're going to be looking for. So for me, I'm going to be looking in this East Hanover area that we're going to be hitting shortly, likely for homes that are either going to be flippable, potentially homes that, I get involved in discounted contracts where I decide if I want to assign those contracts or take on the flip project. And lastly, my final conversion tactic is just turning it into a traditional listing. I do have my license in New Jersey, so having as many tools on your tool belt for these conversions will certainly help with that conversion rate. So, that's about it. We're going to hit the road now, and we're going to show you what's going on out there.